People who may not run much and want to lose weight may be advised to go for longer walks using poles to burn more calories. So you use more energy when you use the poles. Wait a minute now. There are a lot of elite trail runners who also uses the poles on steep uphills. So why do they do that if the poles make you spend more energy? Is there a difference between using the poles on flat ground or when going steep uphill? Does it cost more or less or the same amount of energy to climb a really steep vertical K with poles than without? And above all, which is faster? You'll find out in this video. Hello and welcome. My name is Fredrik Zillén and I'm your running technique specialist, and today's topic is how the use of poles on steep uphills affects how much energy it costs and which is faster with or without the poles. As usual in my videos, we'll skip the guessing part and go straight to see what the research says. We can start with the study by Nicola Giovanelli, published in the European Journal of Applied Physiology. Do poles really save the legs during uphill pole walking at different intensities? Now you might be thinking, why does he say walking? We're talking about running here. Well, it's because it's true that some supernatural runners, such as Kilian Jornet, often run no matter how steep it is. But it's still quite common for even the best trail runners and sky runners to walk when it's the steepest. The study used pressure-sensitive poles to measure how much pressure the runners applied to the poles, and had pressure-sensitive soles in their shoes that measured the force from their feet and their legs. Tests were done both indoors on a special treadmill that could create enough incline to make the runners choose walking over running, and in a similar environment outdoors. They also used VO2 max analyzers to measure their aerobic effort. 15 runners were included in this study. The first thing they noticed was that the steeper the slope, the more they used the poles. For example, here you can see how much force was applied to the poles. Vertical line, you can see how much force they used, and on the horizontal line, you can see how big the incline was. The more degrees of incline, the more force was applied to the poles. Well, that may not be a surprise for you or rocket science, but it's always good to have the numbers to back up what you say. The power from the feet also increased as it got steeper, but not nearly as much. The force required for the legs measured with the insoles was about 5% less with the poles than without when measured outdoors on an all-out hill climb. This was despite the fact that they were 2.5% faster with the poles than without. But note that it was an all-out climb. It doesn't seem to be that much of an advantage if you go quite slow. And that answers one of the questions I asked in the beginning of this video. Is it faster with the poles than without when it's so steep that you have to walk? Yes, it is. At least when you compete and go all out. Well, is it then because you save energy with the poles? No, it's not. It costs the same amount of energy whether you choose poles or not, but because the use of the poles shifts the powers from the legs to the upper body, the legs can do more. You save your legs. So you can't really say that the participants in the study went faster up the hill with the poles because the poles make them save energy, but because the poles save their legs. Or as the study puts it, it is therefore reasonable to conclude that the use of poles saves the legs during uphill without affecting the metabolic cost. The same can be found in the study pole walking is faster but not cheaper during steep uphill walking. It says in the study, participants completed the maximal effort faster with poles versus without poles. However, this did not actually apply to all participants. I quote, 12 of the 15 participants improved their performance when they used their poles. But even though not everybody got faster with the poles, the researchers wrote, in the examined conditions, athletes should use poles during steep uphill maximal efforts to obtain the best performance. But during maximal effort, the use of poles does not provide advantage in uphill power walking. As usual, when it comes to training and research, it's never quite as black and white as you'd like. Because while it does seem that it is a good idea to use the poles when you're running trail races where there are sections where it's so steep that the poles will give you an advantage, you also have to balance that with having to carry the poles throughout the race. It adds a bit more weight and can possibly get in the way during the parts when they are not used, and it takes some time to get them up and unfolded and fold them back and put them in your belt or wherever you carry them. So for shorter, faster races, maybe it takes more time to put them out and use them and put them back and they are in the way. But in the long run, and it's very, very steep, or short, it's a vertical climb, super steep vertical K, it could be a good idea. So I'm not going to give you any advice as to exactly what you should do. I'm just giving you the facts, how things apply to running, so you can make your own fact-based decisions on the matter. And the best way to get scientific facts about how to become a more efficient runner and simple advice on how to apply it to your own running is, of course, my online course named Efficient Running Techniques. You can find more information about that at www.fredrikzillén.com. And I'll finish as usual with words of wisdom for runners. See you in another video.